Hello everyone, my name is Hriyen, your tech maestro at Azure DevOps Pulse. Welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we'll be learning about Terraform data sources. So first of all, let us understand data sources and why even use them. A data source is used to query information from external systems or existing resources and incorporate that information into our Terraform configuration. It provides dynamic attributes that can be used to make our configuration context aware and responsive to changes. Let's say, as you can see right now, this is my resource group. I have logged into my Azure portal, and as you can see, this is resource type as resource group, and this can be any type of resource. It could be your binaire, subnet, maybe resource group, or can be a public IP address or any kind of resource type. Okay, but in our simplest example, what you can think of, we are going to use a storage, I mean a resource group. That means uh, first of all, why we use a data source, right? So if you have a resource that is already created or available already, you want to use the same resource itself without creating new one, right? So we can use data source. In our case, this is like I mentioned, this is already created, already available in Azure portal. Now I just want to use this resource group when I in my Terraform configuration file. Another way we can think of, let's say you have a project one where you have already this particular resource group we define and you want to use in project 2, that situation also we can use a data source. All right, now before that let me show you one more thing. As you can see here, this is my Terraform data source use existing RG. That means in my case we are going to use the existing resource group which I've shown you already. In my case this is the resource group. Let's say we are going to use this existing one. Now what we can use, we can simply use the existing data source, I mean existing resources with the help of data source, and you can mention your resource name. Okay, and once you define your resource name, then like I mentioned, you are going to use the resource group name itself. Here you need to change the resource group locations, and this is for the, let's say you're going to create after creating your resource group, I mean after defining your resource group, then you are going to create the bnet. You have given your resource block, and this is resource, I mean bnet name, and this is the location of your bnet. That means I'm going to use the same as my existing resource group. What you can do here is that just mention data dot in front of your, this is a normal, right? If you see here as your RM is your provider name, your resource provider type, and local name dot name location. So in front of that just give a dot and data dot. Same thing for the resource group name also, you can give like that, like a data dot your provider name, then resource type, and the local name, and then name. That is how we can define it. So anyway, so let's go back to the Visual Studio. Let us have a demo. So as you can see here right now, I have nothing here. I have my repository in my GitHub, which we have done in our day 12. So I'm going to use the same code and I will do some modification over there. So let me go here. Let me clone first. Git clone. So it has been cloned right now. As you can see here, I can see my repository which was available here already. So now let me go here. I can see day 12. This is my repository. Before that, let me also switch to my repository. Then, okay, I am here right now. Yeah. So as you can see, I have it my dot variables file. Then we have a main.tf files. Okay. So what you see here is that we have already in our last sessions, what we did was we created a resource group newly. I mean, it is going to create new resource group. But in our case, like I mentioned, using data source, we are going to use a data that is available in my uh, Azure. This is the resource group. This resource group, I'm going to use it when I create my storage account so that I don't have to create new resource group again and again. So what I'm going to do is that if you have a requirement where you need to use your existing resource itself in your Terraform, so we can use a data source. So let's do how we can do. First of all, I will command this one. Let me come on stick. Okay, so we can ignore this one right now. And so how I can do that one? First type data. If you see that, click there. Then mention the resource block, resource type. As your RM is a provider name, then resource group. If you see here, resource group, then you can mention the name, whatever name you want. This way you can define. Otherwise, if you don't know how we can define, simply what you do is that you directly go to the documentations or copy this one. If you don't know what you need to define, what you do, copy this one. This is basically your resource type, right? Before that, you just give a data dot, mention the resource type. Just enter. This will take you directly to your Terraform documentation so that you can have a look and understand how it has been defined as an example. So as you can see here, this is my example. I can simply copy this one. Instead, I can remove this existing now. I can just put one more space. Okay, this is how it is. Right now, as you can see here, data is nothing but data block. This is a resource type. In my case, I can give some name. This is my local reference name. I can give my RG and name. Name is nothing by I need to give this is the resource group name because we are defining data source for the resource group itself. So now in my resource group, I have this is my resource group name. Let me copy this one and then let me paste it here. So if you see here, I only define here. If you notice here, I have also defined the locations where it is not required in my data source. So sometime you may get a like a doubts like that. No, if you're not sure what kind of information you need to type here or what type of information you need to enter here. If you're not sure what you do, simply you go to the documentation as you already went here, right? You went already here. There is an option called arguments reference, right? Click on the arguments reference. As you click on the argument reference, this will be same there. As you can see here, on top it says the argument reference there. You see the following arguments are supported, meaning it only required, if you see your name, only required in the bracket, okay, required the name of the resource group. That means that is why we have defined the resource group name here. Same thing here, you can see resource group name we have defined here. Existing resource group name you can define here. So this is again depends on the resource type. It may varies the argument uh, reference. Okay. In my case, just the resource group. So in resource group cases, you just need to define only the resource group name. But if you are dealing with some other resource type, let's say for the bnet, okay, just for the example, if you try to bnet type data dot as your rm, otherwise you can directly type also virtual network you type. If you type here again, like I mentioned, it will take you directly to your virtual network for your data source. As you can see, this is data source, and in my case, virtual network. Now, as you can see, this is example. I can simply copy and paste, but sometimes you may have a query like, how do I know what I need to define, right? If you don't not sure, if you're defining everything by yourself from here, from your Visual Studio or whatever extension you use, there is an option called, like I mentioned, argument reference. Click over there, and here, as you can see here, within argument reference, you can see here name and the resource group. That means when it comes to the virtual network, I need to define minimum at least name and the resource group name. This is why they have mentioned the name of my bnet and the resource group name. Okay, so like that depends on the resource type. You need to check the documentations and accordingly you can take the template of the existing or you can define your own. But if you're trying to write your own, always try to use the meta arguments and see what is the meta argument is required. That is something which is required for you to enter in your Terraform configuration file. Now I'm good with this one. I have defined my this thing, and this is something additional. If you want, you can give it. Otherwise, you can ignore this one. This basically is going to be output of your resource group. Basically ID, resource group ID. Okay, in my case, let me just give the local name. Okay, so Same thing, value I define as a your because this is a resource data type. I mean data source, data dot, then your resource type, then local name and your ID. Okay. So if you want the resource group ID itself, you can use this one, or you can ignore it if you don't want. In my case, let it be as it is. Okay. Now I have defined my existing resource group, that is my data source RG1. So what I'll do, I will also need to modify something. I mean here, because I'm going to create a storage account. That means the storage account I am going to create within this storage account, which is sorry, resource group which is existing. So I'm going to create this storage account in data source resource group itself. So how I can do that one? So here everything now I need to change only the location and name, because it is a resource group I'm going to use, right? So if you see your location, just put data in front of the resource type, data dot. Same thing for the resource group name also, because if you see a resource group name also for my storage account, I can just mention simply data dot, then the resource type. So now good. Now what I'm trying to say here is I have defined my existing resource group, that is my data source RG1, and this is optional. I want to get the output of my resource group ID. And third, I'm going to create a storage account. Whatever value I have defined in my variable files, I have defined a storage account as this one. I can change this one, maybe instead of this one I can just mention just 10. Let me show first this one. Okay, my storage account name would be this one. Now what I'll do, go back to your main.tf files. So yeah, this is storage account name, and here, like I mentioned, resource group name I mentioned as a data because I'm going to use the existing resource type. That is why I have to use a data dot, then resource type and the local name. This is same thing what you define here. If you see, this is the resource type and this is a local name, remain same here. Just the in front of that, you just going to give a data dot, so that you can use your existing resource, that is your data source RG1. Same thing for the location also, in front of the resource type, and it just need to give a data dot. Now I'm good with this one. Now let me save once again just to be sure. And I'm here. Let me check I'm in the right place. Now let me type Terraform in it. I'm going to initialize the Terraform first. Now let's wait. Maybe yeah, it is got initialized. Now let me try Terraform plan. If you want, you can plan. Otherwise, just mention out also. In my case, I don't want to do anything. I just want to put apply directly. I want to put auto approve. So it is going to approve automatically. Sorry, spelling wrong. Okay, some syntaxes are having issue. So I corrected it. Okay, it is okay. Terraform apply auto approve. So whatever you have defined now, the resource type, I mean resource group, this is going to, like you mentioned, like as you can see here, this is the resource group ID. It is shown me now as an output. If you want this, you can keep. Otherwise, you can remove here from here output. Fine. Now let's wait for some time. Maybe it takes at least 1 minute or something, because we are going to create only the storage account. The resource group is not going to create because we are going to use our existing resource group. But this is not just about the resource group or anything. It could be any resource type. If you are dealing with a different resource type, you can maybe check that also. Like I mentioned, users need to see what kind of resource type you are using. Accordingly, you have to check the meta argument and what kind of information that you need to update in your Terraform configuration. Accordingly, you update it and then you change. Yeah, it is successfully got created. Well, now let's go back to our Visual Studio. I mean console in my Terraform. I mean Azure portal. Let me refresh it once again. I have refreshed it. Let me go inside. Now, okay, it is still going to create it. Okay, it is got created successfully. As you can see here, storage account dep10. This is the name I have defined, as you can see here. Right, sorry, where is that? In my variable 5 is here, because I have defined for storage account name also as a variable. So I can see here. If you go to variable files for my storage account, this is the name I have defined it. So it is got created as per my desired state. I mean, as per my expectation. Now, when and all we can use, in what situation we can use. Let's say if we have an existing resource where you don't want to create in Terraform once again, you just simply want to use the existing resource. It can be any resource type. It can be your subnet, binaire, or public IP address, or no matter what resource type it is. Okay, so we can use a data source. In my case, we have used data source for my storage account. I mean resource group name. In your case, you can use some other resource type also, but try to always refer the documentations, because according to the resource type, you may need to check that what kind of information is needed for you to write a Terraform configuration file. Now let me show you one more. If I talk about the public IP address, okay, your provider name, then public IP address you type, see a public IP. If you type the public IP, this is also data source. Means if you want to use your existing public IP address and you want to use it that one as you're using data source, then this is the information required. That is your again name, that is your public IP address name, and the resource group of your public IP address. These two are important. So still, it is good that you go here, argument reference, check this one as an argument, under arguments you see here. These two are important. That is your name of your public IP address and the resource group of your public IP address. So these two are important. So it is again, like I mentioned, depends on the situation that you need to always refer to documentations and understand, right? So yeah, it is got created successfully as expected. And one more situation, let's say if a project where you have in project one, you have defined some resource group and you want to use it in project two, even this also can be used, just like how we define right now. But in this case, if in your project one, let's say the resource group it shall not created, and if you define in your project two the same resource using I mean data source, it is going to create if it is not created in your project one. If it is already created in project one, then it is not going to create. But if it is not created in project one, it is going to create in your project two, which you define your data source. Yeah. So yeah, that's all for today's sessions, guys. So thank you so much once again to each and every one of you out there. So have a nice day. Take care. Bye bye.